Hey everyone, if you've got an A7S3 like I'm filming on right now, or maybe you're waiting for an A7S4, there's a few things you need to think about. If you're an A7S lover, there's good and bad news. So I've had this A7S3 for years now. It's an amazing camera. I've made hundreds and hundreds of videos with it and I'm super happy with it. But there's four things that it's kind of lacking that would have made it an even bigger video beast in its time. The first of which is false color. Inbuilt false color monitoring would make it so much easier and quicker to set up exposure. And it's also potentially more accurate and reliable than some other measures, especially if you're just relying on the camera's meter for run and gun situations. False color also makes it super easy to match the exposure between different shots or different camera angles if that's what you're going for. The second thing that would have made the S3 an even bigger video monster is if it had focus breathing compensation built into it. Focus breathing is when there's that kind of noticeable movement in the angle of view when you're shifting focus between 2 points. You can see in this shot when I change the autofocus point, the angle of view seems to shift a bit as well as the focus. And the amount of focus breathing you get does depend on which lens you're using, and when you see it in a video it can make the video look a bit more amateurish or cheap perhaps. The third thing that would improve this camera so much more is if it had better timecode support. This would make working with multiple cameras and multiple camera angles and even external audio recorders so much easier, especially when it comes to edit them in post. We do already have timecode input on the S3, but it would be even better if we had timecode generation and timecode output as well. And to take this one step further, having a dedicated timecode port on the camera would be amazing. When it comes to the fourth one, don't click off when I mention this please. I promise I've got a good reason for it, and that's if this camera was 8K. Now I know 8K might be completely overkill for delivery on most projects, but it's the ability to take that 8K image and crop in on it or reframe items in post which makes 8K so powerful. For example, if you were shooting an interview with two people, you could have one wide shot in 8K and then crop into a 4K image of each person as each person is talking. This would save you from having to set up multiple cameras for the shoot, especially if you're limited for space or time. Also, if you're doing some kind of tracking or stabilization or locked on effect in post, having that 8K image is so much better because as part of that processing it's going to crop in on the image, so you're going to lose resolution. So let's talk about the good news first. For existing A7S3 users, we're going to get 2 out of these 4 features spring 2024. It's also going to give us a little extra bonus feature which is super nice. So the first of these features we're getting via firmware is going to be focus breathing compensation. Yay! This will be such an amazing update, especially for me where some of my go-to lenses do feature quite heavy or noticeable focus breathing. And as an added bonus, it looks like we're also going to be getting DCI 4K in true 24p, which is pretty cool to be getting in a non-cinema line camera. So the second out of those 4 things that we're going to be getting is false color monitoring support. By the way, if this is the first time we're meeting, hello, I'm Jason. This channel is all about making better looking, better sounding and better edited video. If you feel like subscribing, I'd really appreciate that. There is a catch though when it comes to this false color, and to get access to it you're going to have to use the new Sony app that they've released. This is Sony's monitor and control app, and it already has support for the FX3, FX6 and FX30, but Sony have announced that support will be coming for the A7S3 around March next year or later. As well as false color monitoring, it also has waveform monitoring, wireless remote control focus setting, custom monitor LUT loading and much more. So what's the bad news? Well, if you're waiting for an A7S4, we may never get one. So why do I say this? Well, hear me out. I don't think an A7S4 makes sense given that we've got the FX3 and FX30. As a photo video hybrid, the A7S3 is okay for photos, but it's nothing like, for example, my A7R4 with its 61 megapixels. Does something like the A7 IV make more sense if you're after a more balanced photo video hybrid? Maybe. But if you want a video-centric camera, something like the FX3, even though it costs $400 more than the A7S3, is a great choice. Or even something like the ZV-E1, which actually has the same sensor as the A7S3 and the FX3, or even the FX30 if you don't need or you don't want full frame sensors. Is there a place for an A7S4 in Sony's lineup? I really don't think so. It just doesn't make sense to me, especially when we get the next version of the ZV-E1 or the FX3 Mark II that I talk about in this next video. Do you think we'll get an A7S4? Do we even need one? Comment and let me know, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.